Have you felt the energy all around you or a sensation that's typically not there and thought to yourself, what is going on? Well, lucky for you, in this show, Master Your Energy, we're going to dive deep and explore the energy going around in the cosmos and how it might be impacting us here on Earth. And also, each episode, you'll gain new tools, perspectives, and ways to connect deeper and deeper with your own energy. And of course, I'm your host, Sara Wong. After 15 years in being in a corporate environment, I decided to dive deeper into my own energy. And over the last 10 years, I've studied things including emotional intelligence, quantum physics. I also became a Reiki master. And specifically speaking, over the last 4 years, I opened my own business and have served thousands of clients in understanding and healing their own energy. As your guide, I'm honored to be here with you today. Welcome, welcome. We are in Taurus season officially. It started yesterday and it runs until May 20th. So we're really in a time of being practical. And Taurus energy is ruled by Venus, which is all about love, passions, desires, and achieving those passions, love, and desires. So this is a time to really elevate our lives in new ways. And with Taurus energy, it's very strong right now because it's not only being ruled by the sun, it's also in Mercury. And those are two very powerful planets when combined in the same sign that creates this forward momentum. Not only that, we're also in the mix of the Lyrid meteor shower, which started on 4/16 and ends on the upcoming full moon 4/26. So whenever we have a meteor shower, especially this is the first major one of 2021, it brings an energy of new insights, new inspiration, new ideas, new conversations with different individuals. So this is definitely a time to reach out to friends that you love connecting to, that inspire you, or anyone. If you're an inspiring person, believe me, I'm sure there's so many friends right now that would love to hear from you and could benefit from your ideas. So wherever you fall out in the spectrum, honor that during this time because your energy is needed in so many different ways because we're all ready to evolve and move forward. However, no need to rush. This is the season of practicality and momentum. So, the biggest energy for us available right now is to think about what is truly our desire for ourselves right now. What is an area of focus that we're ready to take to the next level? And then what are some steps that you can start doing each day? Because the energy is really here to guide us forward. So if you are feeling stuck, overwhelmed, limited, or even dissatisfied with your current results, know that sometimes all that's required is a new approach or a new strategy or something that could bring in joy, bring in passion to whatever you're focusing your energy on. And sometimes just shifting that energy to a higher frequency can also bring in those ideas. So when we have those meteor showers, it also brings in energy in the universe. So if you're familiar with the Schumann resonance, it is off the charts, which is measuring the different energies and frequencies coming into our planet, our energetic field, and how that could impact us on a physical level. Could be feeling exhausted, feeling a bit excited, but yet still needing time to process, and also finding the momentum, but also feeling like you can't stop. And it's almost like I just want to keep going. There's so much here. And sometimes when we lose balance in that is we lose our practical approach, which means it can become very overwhelming. And so sometimes what we got to do is give ourselves permission to just slow down. I always say, slow your roll when I'm just forcing myself to go, go, go and do. So Taurus energy can be bullish. It could be stubborn. It could be very driven by goals, driven by desires. However, when you find the practical solutions, I know my Taurus energy very well. My dad's a Taurus, my grandmother's a Taurus, and I have dear Taurus friends. And, one thing I know about them is they're really good about setting goals. And then they're good about finding any way to make these goals happen. However, sometimes they get so focused on the goal that they lose sight of the day-to-day happiness, the day-to-day joy. So one thing that is very crucial for Taurus season is staying in that balance, staying in that flow, because with all the new inspiration, with all those new insights coming in, there's a lot to explore and no need to rush it. Now, I will say this, we have an upcoming full moon in Scorpio, and it's actually on the same day of Pluto going into retrograde for the next 5 months. And I'm just going to warn everyone, this is a time of a rebirth, and this full moon is going to activate days leading up before it, which basically Friday through Monday is when we're going to feel this energy, and it's raw, it's real, and it's working to support us in elevating our lives to the next level. So anything that's in our way, whether it be relationships, technology, communication, understanding how to move forward in practical ways, that will all be presenting itself, and anything that's in our way from that is going to absolutely be removed. So it could be removed in a way of our choice, and it could be removed in a way of, serendipity, synchronicity, certain events that happen which shift your focus or create an opportunity to evolve in some way, shape, or form. And again, like I mentioned, we're still in that Lyrid meteor shower, which ends on that full moon. So during this time, we are getting that unexpected events, new insights, new information. So I always say to everyone that is just on the journey of life right now and reinventing themselves, finding new ways to move forward in this ever-changing time, all that's required is to tap in, and each day just present yourself with new options of innovation and really just ask what's available. So I say I feel like I'm on an ocean and the waves get a little crazy, and all I need to do is find my balance. When I feel like I'm losing balance, just tuning in, slowing down, and allowing myself and my energy to find that rhythm, find that flow. And today is a day that is all about going with the flow. Some people love to celebrate 420 as a day of connection to their higher self, to even cannabis. And some look at 420 as the beginning of Earth Day, celebration of Earth and moving into to really cultivating and connecting to the earth in new ways. And I thought for the energy of Taurus and being practical, tuning into our desires, our intentions, why not have someone on the show today that's so deeply connected to plant medicine and using it for healing and intentions and taking life to the next level. So we're going to go on a quick little break, and after the break I'm going to bring on a guest who is going to dive into the world of cannabis. So we'll be back after this short little break. If you're just tuning in to KCAA Radio or YouTube Live, this is Sara Wong, host of Master Your Energy. And this week's inspiration is all about finding balance, honoring your truth and desires while finding new practical ways to move forward. This week's guest is Matt Chandler, and he has had experience in every process in making CBD products, including farming, extraction, product formulations, and manufacturing. Matt is the CEO and creator of Alchempist and is ready to ensure Alchempist reaches everyone around the world who's interested in living their lives to the fullest potential. This episode, we're going to dive deep into the energy of hemp and cannabis and how it could potentially support us as we move forward through these ever-changing times. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Matt. So great to have you on today.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes. So today, we're talking about practical steps in moving forward. And one thing that I love about everything that you've created in your life, and we're going to dive into many parts of that, is overcoming situations of mindset, having to overcome opinions of others,
Hmm.
how you were raised, and moving into an industry that has a lot of stigma, a lot of red tape, and finding innovative ways, to be successful in that, but also to be an educator of the healing qualities of hemp and cannabis. So I would love to start with your background first, of where you grew up, because when we connected last, it was so fascinating to me to understand your background and relationship to cannabis. So let's start there with your journey, and really discover what it took for you to move past the stigmas and limitations that were very well presented in your upbringing.
Yeah, no, definitely were. Definitely were. So I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, kind of center of the Bible Belt. So I grew up kind of in more of a conservative environment and household. And really just growing up, cannabis was pretty much like the worst thing you could do almost. It was like really, alcohol was a lot more accepted, even though we know now it's a lot more damaging on our bodies. But cannabis was something that, like, it was the gateway drug that led to all other things, and all the basically your life going in a big hole. And so
Mhm.
all the dare commercials we grew up with this is your brain on drugs and all those kind of things. So really that's my initial, what I understood of the plant, what I was programmed to learn about it. And it took me, I first experienced cannabis at 26 actually, so it was pretty a little bit later in life. And for me at time, and kind of what led me to cannabis, I was pretty much an entrepreneur my whole entire life. I've always liked doing things to try to make money and things, and just always, like helping people and solving problems. And so entrepreneur is really natural for me. And I started getting into real estate, had a lot of success there, and kind of, did flip homes and developed houses and different things like that. And I kind of got in this whole rut that, I had two small kids at the time, 1 and 4, and I was working like 80 hours a week to 100 hours a week. And I was extremely stressed, and really just kind of frustrated at life. With the bad part of that is I felt guilty about it because, I had definitely, accumulated what most people would be like, oh, you got a great family, and money, but I just felt bad that I felt miserable about it. Right. And so I was kind of just researching into different things, and really to help address with sleep, with my ex-partner as well. And so we came across cannabis. So we ended up trying it. And, my first experiences, and this was just basically marijuana or higher THC, and we'll kind of go over that later, but was a little overwhelming at first. But I kind of felt that it would allow me to relax, and this kind of do it before sleep and kind of shut my mind off, and it helped me sleep. So I kept doing it. And the biggest thing that really I want to share about cannabis and hemp and what it made impact on my life is it really started to help change the way I live my life. My brain patterns, my lifestyle, things that I really wasn't aware of as much before. I started to become a lot more aware of them. Right. So I'll give you some examples. I was noticing that I was indoors in a desk about 90% of my day. So I had very little time that I had a workout that I would do. But other than that, like, I wasn't outside much. I wasn't, going outside and playing as much or have as much fun in my life. I noticed I wasn't spending enough time with my kids. Pretty much when I got home, it was still in my mind about work, and I just had a hard time separating. And so that was a big thing. I also noticed how my food choices changed. I started like being more aware of the food that we were eating, and like where it came from, and trying to eat healthier food kind of naturally, right? Because again, where I grew up, it's a lot of fast food, and healthy eating is
Mhm.
not necessarily was a big importance for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And but I started to be more aware of these kind of things, right? And it really started to make a difference psychologically of just how I looked at life, which is, I think, is big. And I researched a lot into it because I was super fascinated at it. And there's a lot of research that you can go out there and look, a lot about how THC and even CBD as well, and other cannabinoids can help with neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. And why I feel like those are important, from what I know, and I'm just going to spit of like what the science I do know about this. From age 25 and under, we're very open-minded, right? new into the environment, and open, rightfully so, we're trying to learn things. So we're very open to suggestions and change, especially, from like 4 to 10, kids are very suggestible of experiences and what they're told. Right. And then at age 25 and on, that starts to change, and we become less plasticky in our brains. And what that means is like our neuroplasticity in our brain goes down, or our ability to kind of take in new things and learn them. And it's naturally, and we're more set, let's say, in our ways. And so I was at that point, at that 26 point, right, where I was pretty set in my ways from where I grew up and, what I learned about life and my experience. And so it really helped. I from the science of it, THC and cannabis really affect neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that plant does, and at least it's done for me, is it started to open my mind to new changes. And the changes are up to the person, right, of what they're trying to create. But if they're wanting to learn or adapt something new or being a little bit open-minded and stuff, I think cannabis is probably one of the best plants to do that by far. And so it was very powerful for me, and I researching into it, did that for like 6 months to a year. And was more just a user and kind of became more of like a connoisseur and learning about it. And then we heard about CBD. And so CBD at the time, my ex-partner had some autoimmune kind of issues and stuff like that. And CBD has been shown to really help with different autoimmune diseases, which I don't want to quote anything like that's for sure, but if you can go on the research, there's been some research linked to that. And so what it does is it kind of looks like it suppresses the immune system, because when we're on flight or flight, we're kind of start to like produce overinflammation and things. And if fight or flight is okay, we know, but only for a short period of time and not to be chronically like in fight or flight, right? So CBD does a really good job of kind of calming the immune system down and suppressing it to where, and I know suppressing might not sound like a good word for your immune system, but if you're an autoimmune, it is a good thing because you want to suppress it so that your body can get in that parasympathetic state, or what I call a healing state, so that the body can start to do its own natural healing. So yeah, through those two experiences, and really after the CBD, it started to change about 5 years ago to where in Colorado, they were doing growing hemp and making CBD. And so I was interested big time. And so I started to think of like, how can I transition my current business? And I want to go learn about this plant and pursue it full time because it's super fascinating. And I just feel like it's such a great, with where we're at today in society and all the stuff going on, things are changing, right? They're changing fast. And we want to be open, I feel like, to those changes and be able to like receive them and go next with them, right? Because they're coming and they're coming fast. And so I feel like this plant, through its legalization in this recent time, is like the perfect timing to usher in and to help people through these changes, right? And so that's really the reason I got into this plant. And I've been, like you said in the earlier, all up and down the supply chain, and I'm happy to answer questions about that as well, but of making it as well, just to find out how we can make the best products and formulas that really work for people. Yeah,
it's so interesting. So with your journey with cannabis, you have both experience and seen the benefits of the psychoactive THC and the more non-psychoactive, the CBD. And, as a dad, as at the time a married man, how did you see that support you and your partner to move forward past some of the challenges that you two were experiencing probably as new parents and all the stresses of life, right? Because I think right now, pharmaceuticals aren't necessarily benefiting people long-term health-wise. And, we're more as a collective and probably in the world concerned about our health and our vitality and maintaining that. And so anything that could take away from that, like alcohol or pharmaceuticals that, are sometimes the only option, not alcohol per se, but pharmaceuticals, I get it. And however, from a sustainability, I know a lot of people are looking for alternative ways to heal. And I know for depression, anxiety, overwhelm, those are common things that, maybe a pill doesn't necessarily need to solve. CBD could be a good alternative. So I would love to just hear from you, how you just saw CBD more so benefit you and your ex-partner through that process.
Yeah. I think on a practical level, when the cannabis first started, it was really brought a lightheartedness to conversations, some laughter, some fun.
Yeah.
Things that were constantly from, occupying your mind about work seem to be less as important and more in the moment. And so that really made a big difference. And I think cannabis does that, especially when used the right way. And I would like to kind of say there's definitely the wrong way to use the plant too. It's a wonderful plant, but there's definitely a wrong way to use it, just like there's wrong ways to use food and anything else that there is in life too.
Right.
So I do believe that, you have to use it in the right manner. But yeah, I definitely, it helped me big time in that. And I feel like with the pharmaceuticals kind of, with the comment that you just mentioned, I think pharmaceuticals are life-saving and they're amazing. And it's just crazy what we've created as a society to help each other. And for pharmaceuticals, what I do see as the downside of them is that they're used to kind of sometimes treat daily life and chronic stress or chronic kind of conditions and diseases. And chronic meaning that these are like longer term, right? It's not like an emergency or, this happened, so we need to intervene with these drugs to kind of save someone's life or whatever that may be, right? So I'm not against pharmaceuticals at all, but I do feel like a lot of chronic conditions can be addressed first with plants. And I feel like the hemp plant is, like I said, the most powerful one that I found so far, and that I've looked into. So I think that like plants like that, and what I hope to see in the future is, there's going to be people will go to that first, right? And to try for these long-term things that, and really what I look at it is their body's in kind of fight or flight. It's super stressed. And, when it's super stressed and it doesn't have time to relax and calm down, it'll start to break down and you'll form symptoms. And then if not addressed, it could, manifest into diseases or problems. And so I just feel like there's a place for both of them, right?
Yeah.
And plants are great with, I feel like, chronic stress and illnesses and things. Personally, I just got to make sure I say that personally, that's what I believe.
Yes.
Everybody's got to do their own research and things like that. But
And that's important. I use essential oils for a lot of different things. And same with essential oils. They're from plants, and some people have allergies. Some people have high sensitivities to them. So it's really important to always do your own research, whether you're using pharmaceuticals or plant medicine or essential oils even, because they absolutely can cause harm if used incorrectly. And also, I'm excited because when we get back from our commercial break, we're going to dive into, how to use cannabis in different ways and the science behind Alchemist, which I just love. So I'm really excited to dive into that because, you do bring another layer to CBD, to tinctures, all of it. And it's all about intention and applying it to allow your life to evolve in different ways. And I always like to say, you don't need anything.
No.
You technically don't need anything.
No.
You don't need plants, you don't need crystals, you don't need oils, you don't need pharmaceuticals, you don't need anything other than yourself. However, these are good tools that can be leveraged during major life changes. And I always like to remind everyone, we're still in a pandemic, and it's okay if you're not feeling 100%. We're navigating through some crazy times, and it's okay to acknowledge that. Yes, we're, some people are getting vaccinated and some still aren't. So we're still having to navigate so many polarities, so many nuances, and sometimes that can cause the overwhelm, anxiety, depression. So these are all just different tools to look into. And I know, specifically speaking, if you're looking for an alternative to CBD that has zero psychoactives, is copaiba. Copaiba is an essential oil that's amazing as well. And really, I would say CBD is a great at massaging the inflammation or wherever that pain is or causing that illness. And copaiba is the same. And it actually, like the plant energy, starts to repair those cells at the same time. So there is a little bit of a nuance, but when combined, pretty powerful stuff.
I would agree.
Just adding that in.
Yeah.
So before we cut to break, just wanted to add in case you're just tuning in, we're talking all about hemp and cannabis and how it could support you for healing your mind, body, and soul. And we're going to dive deeper into how we can do that in many different ways. And also, by the way, we're in Taurus season for the next several weeks, all the way until May 20th. So this is a time about moving your life forward, elevating your life in new ways, and really finding a new rhythm that's going to allow you to explore and elevate whatever you're here to create with fun and joy, because Taurus is ruled by Venus. So, That's passion and pleasures and desires, and with that we can leverage those north stars to guide us forward in the most practical way. And last but not least, we are in the middle of a meteor shower, which ends on Monday. And this is a time for new inspiration, new beginnings. So all about finding balance and really exploring what's alive for us in each moment. So after the commercial break, we'll be back with more. So stay tuned. If you're just tuning in to KCAA Radio or YouTube Live, this is Sara Wong, host of Master Your Energy. And this week's inspiration is all about finding balance, honoring your truth and desires while finding new practical ways to move forward. This week's guest is Matt Chandler, and he has had experience in every process in making CBD products, including farming, extraction, product formulations, and manufacturing. Matt is the CEO and creator of Alchempist and is ready to ensure Alchempist reaches everyone around the world who's interested in living their lives to the fullest potential. This episode, we're going to dive deep into the energy of hemp and cannabis and how it could potentially support us as we move forward through these ever-changing times. Let's dive in. And we're back. So right before break, we were talking about all things leading Matt into the journey of hemp and cannabis. And one thing we were talking about before is we both love to do research. And one of the things I want to look up, personally speaking, was what was the earliest record of cannabis? And when I was doing my research, I found, given that I feel like the Chinese were probably the best in terms of documenting their history, their earliest record goes back 5,000 years ago to the Emperor Shen Nung, and he was known as the Divine Farmer, and actually said cannabis can cure over 100 different types of diseases in the body, mind, and soul. And had also introduced techniques of acupuncture that are still used to this day. So it's very fascinating because the more and more I look into India and China and, even parts of Africa, cannabis and hemp have been used for all kinds of materials and all kinds of medicinal healing tinctures and also herbs. So mixing it with mullein to help the lungs heal and, opening and the expanding the consciousness of the mind. Kundalini teachers back in the early, I want to say 500s BC was one of the other references I saw where would use it to support them in journeying deeper in their Kundalini yoga practice. So, don't know which, lineage that came from, but I do know from who I've spoken to that are in the yoga world that there is a lot of references of teachers and masters using it back in the day for even meditation. So I'd just like to bring in that knowledge of awareness because I think there's so much undocumented information out there about cannabis and hemp. And no mistake, we have Matt here that is absolutely someone that's just journeyed deep into the world, being in Colorado, and also leveraging it as a life-changing tool. From what you described before, obviously being where you're at now, a new business, new partner, new life, new reality, navigating an evolved version of you. And that's the exact energy we're in. So with that, having used it as a tool throughout your journey, you now made Alchemist. So let's talk about Alchemist. I feel like I always say it with like
say a little bit,
a Russian or something. Like I don't even know where that comes from. It just happens.
Yeah.
It just happens. That's
That's
just how
funny.
I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna change it.
That's funny. I like it. No, it's good. And it's actually pronounced the Alchempist. So the brand was inspired around the book, The Alchemist.
Yes.
And so I love that book.
I love that
amazing. Has so many good messages. And I really love the term alchemy, right? And alchemy, to my definition of it, is taking something ordinary and turning it into something extraordinary. And so what we try to do is make alchemy with hemp. That's what we do with our brand and product. So we threw that little P in there in the name because it's basically the alchemist with the P. So the Alchempist. So yeah, that's where I drew a lot of that inspiration. Like I said, the book made a big difference in my life and just kind of was a big story about, the boy and the alchemist that was following his intuition of what he thought was best for them. Right. And I'm all about that because I think, in my journey, that's what, I had the programs and then I had an opportunity to make my life different. And I chose to make my life different and follow the intuition and the calling. And so that's kind of the symbolism behind it. And yeah, what I say, we make alchemy with hemp.
So tell me a little bit about your process because it's fascinating. I love the bits and pieces you've told me that I've remember at least and would love to hear again. But
Sure.
one thing that stood out to me was like, wow, there's so much intention, there's so much science, there's so much knowledge and mythology behind this product that it made me way more open but excited to use it in different ways. So can you just talk about your process and the product line you've developed as well?
Absolutely. I'd love to. And what I could do is kind of make comparisons to maybe some of the other things that are being done as well, so people can kind of have a better understanding. Um, so, first off, it starts with farming, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I believe farming is probably the most crucial part of the entire process. And, there's three different types of farming. We have traditional farming, or organic farming, and what I call regenerative agricultural farming. Some people call it biodynamic farming. And I'll kind of explain a little bit of the differences. So, conventional farming is what you would think could have GMOs. It could have they use pesticides, herbicides, different chemicals and things to help the plants grow, and mainly to get bugs off, and pesticides and things that could destroy the plants, right? So they create these chemicals to put on the plants that are repelling insects, but they end up in our food too, which I'm not a big believer in. And so that's the conventional style of farming. The second
Hmm.
one is, I would say, or USDA certified organic farming, right? And that type of farming style is, you're still okay to use synthetic nutrients, but they need to be organically derived. So there's like still, you're basically doing all clean things that have been done the right way. And there's a lot of good things with USDA organic, I will say. But you're not really necessarily, you're still giving artificial things to help the plants grow, right?
Hmm.
So regenerative agriculture is kind of becoming more popular, and I think it's huge, and it's going to be huge in farming throughout everywhere, right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
taking the land of where you're at and trying to use the natural systems that are apparent to the land and what you're growing, and how can you grow the richest and most fullest potent plant, right? And
Hmm.
I think we all kind of maybe heard some studies of like, and I don't quote me on this, but like, 50 years ago, an orange was a lot different than it is now in nutrition value, right? And it
Right.
just slowly went down. And a lot of that starts with the soil, right? It starts with the soil diversity, the nutrients that are needed to grow the best plant possible. They're just harder with conventional farming, and even organic farming too. They're not really necessarily worrying about the soil and trying to grow the best plant, right? They might be looking just to grow a plant or to grow it organically. But regenerative agriculture is like, how can we grow the best, most nutritious and fullest plant? And then how can we work with this, land's natural systems for what we're growing to do it, right? And there's a lot of benefits that I won't go in the details of regenerative agriculture, but it's things like using, I'd say every plant typically, from what I've learned about farming, typically is take some like an input, like certain nutrients to grow to the richest and fullest, and then on the other end, it also can, they usually give back nutrients and things as well, right? So with cover crops, you can kind of solve these, and if you're planting right in the cycles, to where you're planting things that are going to grow the richest possible hemp plants, period, right? And we know the nutrients are going to do that, and so we're really big at focusing on the soil. And so what I believe in, we use a local farm here in Colorado. It's
Hmm.
a good friend of mine who's been doing organic farming for a little while and has been in cannabis for like 10, 15 years. He just became obsessed with how to grow the best plants in soil. And so that's who we use. And I feel like that's one of the biggest, benefits when you're looking at a hemp plant, is really how it was farmed, right?
Hmm.
Because the more rich it is, the more not only just cannabinoids it might have in it, because that's one thing, but like all the terpenes and all the other good plant materials, which I believe are magical and really do a lot of what the work is to kind of create that synergistic effect so the plant works the most effective way as well.
Right.
So farming, we're using your regenerative agriculture farming for extraction. So next, once you grow it, we have like a bud, and hemp buds looks very similar to what a cannabis bud would look like. Slightly different, but mostly, a lot of the same things too. And for extraction, my viewpoint and standpoint is, one, what is the minimal amount I can do to this plant to basically, we're going to concentrate it. And that's what's good about extraction, because to make an extract in a bottle that's potent for someone might take a whole bunch of plants, right? It's like
Right.
juicing. You kind of have a bunch of plates, and then you put it in the juicer, and then it ends up with the juice. So it's the same thing. It's like, we want to concentrate it, but I'm very careful to of how we're extracting, as well as I'm trying to do the minimal amount I can to make our products, right? And the reason I do that is when you're in the flower stage before you extract, that plant has the most nutrients, cannabinoids, terpenes. It's complete, right? When you start extracting it and refining it and processing it, it starts to basically lose that value, and it loses the terpenes, and it loses, all these different things that are really beneficial for the plant. So I try to concentrate it, but stay very, very, very as raw as I can possibly keep it. We use a thing called organic cryogenic ethanol extraction, which is like freezing it, because when you heat things, terpenes and stuff like that can evaporate. So we try to keep minimal heat to it as possible. Want to preserve as much as we can of those natural plant compounds, which is really where I think what makes the magic in our products is all those other compounds and growing it from a good plant. And so that's kind of a little bit what we're doing on extraction. For product formulations and manufacturing, I'm really big at not using as isolates. So, there's things when I refer to the term isolate, I'm talking about when you hear the term CBD or THC. So CBD by itself is like a white powder, and it's an isolated form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most pharmaceuticals are isolates of, compounds that they found in nature, and they've concentrated them. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that if you're going for a specific condition. But from what I've read and what I've learned about CBD, it's really CBD is a facilitator to the endocannabinoid system. So it really needs the presence of these other cannabinoids and terpenes and plant compounds, I feel like, to work the most effectively in a person. And so it really makes a big difference. So I stay away from the isolated, and usually we'll have to go through more chemical processes and end up in the waste product to very raw starting material. And then I'm a big believer in the minor cannabinoids. And so when we formulate our products, from what I've learned about the research, is CBD, like I said, is a facilitator. And we have 2 receptor sites inside our body, and those are CB1 and CB2 receptors. The CB1 receptors are really highly tied to our nervous system and balancing our nervous system, where the CB2 receptors are on every single one of our immune cells in our body and are really highly tied to our immune system, right? So CBD, like I said, doesn't necessarily work on either receptor side. It's more of a facilitator and helps as like a catalyst for the other things. But that's why it's super important that you have these other plant compounds and minor cannabinoids like CBG or CBN, which are 2 we add back to our formulas in higher amounts, so that the CBD is able to facilitate and do more work, I would say. So that's how I do our formulas. And yeah, I guess that.
Yeah, you could tell you're like the mad scientist behind cannabis. It's like, well, okay, so we know so much in a general standpoint, but as you're speaking into it, you could just tell, A, you just obviously know so much, but B, it's a science and it's a plant medicine, and how it works with our system, it directly impacts our nervous system and pretty much
immune
all
system.
systems.
Yeah,
our immune system,
all
our whole body.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at it from that perspective, it's it's something to explore, and it's very fascinating. Can you talk a little bit too about your products, because your products are also very unique in terms of how you package them and educate people on how to use them, and that I love.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, as far as packaging goes, I guess how our main mission is, we really want to create change in someone's life, right? We want to be one of their guides on their holistic health path, right? CBD is one tool that they might grab from us, but we want to try to inspire them to do more, research more, follow their intuition, right? To these other parts of holistic health. And so that's one of our, I'd say our big missions. And so what we do with every product purchase, and really it's on our site, where we have this called Alchemize Your Life course. And what we're teaching there is like, I use this formula in my life with anything, with any tool, right? But what the basic format is it's setting your intentions, your gratitude, surrounding yourself with the right community. And how I kind of describe this to
let's
people,
repeat that. It's number 1 is what?
Intention setting.
Intention setting. Let's talk about that. What is, I know I love intention setting, because as a Reiki master, where intention goes, energy flows. And, but even as a human, where intention goes, my mind goes. And, so intention is so powerful when using anything, when eating food, when, taking any type of medicine, because it's giving it purpose and an energetic connection to our bodies. To me, it's what I call an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about the intention
Sure.
settings that you educate people on using with your products?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I kind of try to help describe this with a car analogy. I think it's easier for people to understand. And basically, I look at CBD is the vehicle that people are driving. You as the user are the person that's consciously the driver and in control. And where do you want to go, right? So that's where it brings us to intentions. The first thing you must do is set your intention on where you want to go. So I look at it as like our GPS, right? As
Mhm.
soon as we have that intention and we set it somewhere, it's amazing. Like even scientifically what happens, right? Our bodies start to adjust to that. Our reticular activating system, I don't get too big on it, but like basically a filter through our head, because we have all this information coming at us all the time, right? We'll start to focus in on whatever you put your intentions to, right? So it feeds that out. And I really feel like it calls people in, calls experiences in for you to be able to match your intention, right?
Yeah.
So, when you get in a car to go to any journey, you don't go, I mean, you need a GPS to know where you're going, right? Or you're
Mhm.
going to end up somewhere aimlessly. You won't know how to get there, right? So intention setting is what I call first, is one of the most important. I kind of break intention down in the videos, a little bit of how I do it, which is basically, I look at intention setting as there's physical goals and then there's soul goals. And so physical goals for, let's say, taking a hemp product are going to be like, oh, I want to get better sleep at night, or, I want this pain in my knee to go away, right? And so those are like physical goals of what they might be taking the product for. And what I try to have them do is ask the question why right after that, right? So I'm wanting to take CBD because I have pain in my knee. Well, why do you want to get rid of the pain in your knee? Well, probably because maybe they have grandchildren that they're wanting to play with and run around with or whatever, right? And whatever it may be that they're wanting to be active and go play basketball again with their friends, right? That brought them joy. And so what I try to do is they have them walk them through where they're asking themselves that question, why? So it leads down to their soul's goal, basically, where they have it very clear of like, I'm doing this because X, because of this result,
Mhm.
and it's going to do this in my life, right? And
Yep.
when I feel like you got to your soul goal, what I tell people is like, it should be benefiting not only your highest growth, but usually the people around you as
Mhm.
well, right? That's how you know it's like really soul aligned, right?
Yep.
And so that's kind of what I walk people through on the intention side for
And then
that.
step 2 is
Gratitude. So
gratitude.
gratitude is like the fuel, right? I've been using gratitude a lot more in this last year, and it's been magical. It really is. I feel like it's like the law of attraction. You're being
Yes.
grateful for things that you are wanting to call back into your life, right? So if you're grateful for the money you have, even if it's not what you thought it should be, right? More is
Mhm.
coming to you. And so I
Yeah.
feel like what we're doing there, and I feel like gratitude works on a subconscious level too, right? It kind of aligns our conscious intentions and desires as well, right? And so I feel when we can be grateful for not only the things in our life, but then grateful for the outcomes that we're wanting, that we just set with the intentions. Like, I'm grateful to be able to play with my kids
Yes.
and my grandkids in the yard, and how much joy it's bringing me, and feeling those feelings, right? And really, I think feeling's a big thing with gratitude I talk about as well, just so it
Mhm.
sinks in on that subconscious. I feel like that's where you start to call things in and pull things in even faster, right?
I just heard recently too, which I love this theory, that if for any challenge you have in your life, just like you mentioned, is man, I'm, financially stressed, right? If that's your challenge. Instead of saying like, oh, I'm financially stressed, it's like, wow, thank you for allowing me to see another way to create financial abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's
Exactly.
shifting the focus of lack into where can I
Mm-hmm.
put this energy? And that's so Taurus, right?
Yeah.
That's practical. And this is the energy showing up right now. Believe me, we're in tax season.
Mm-hmm.
It's been extended, but let's be real. We're still in it. And, this is a time to really ask ourselves, like, maybe in the moment we're not like, wow, I'm so grateful for this, but if we can find ways to
Yep.
break out of creating that result and moving past whatever that stagnant energy is,
Yep.
it's
I completely agree.
absolutely, a way. But the energy that was being presented was when we add that layer to our challenge. So instead, like acknowledging the challenge and then creating a gratitude for it,
Mm-hmm.
it's neutralizing that in our energetic field.
Mm-hmm.
So that energy no longer is controlling our subconscious, our conscious mind. Now it's biohacking it in a way to now move into that solution energy. So adding that with a CBD product or Alchemist product
Right.
would be so powerful. And I love that's how your products are just packaged naturally. Okay, so that's step 2. What's step 3?
Community, right?
Yeah.
So what I call that, you're in your car, you're in your journey, you got the navigation set, you have your fuel, you're bound to, on any new journey, experience some setbacks. Feel days where you don't feel like keeping going. There's a myriad of things. And so that's just like, I think, certain in life, right? It's never that you
So
always have setbacks.
is Alchemist the product of 2021? Because I feel like it's intention and gratitude and community. I mean, this feels like very 2021, right? Is
Yeah.
cultivating people we want to grow with and cultivate. And, not to say you have to do this with a product. However, I love that if these are aligned to energies you're wanting to cultivate more of, and you do leverage CBD, I would definitely say try this product out. And being 420, Matt, you have a bonus for us today. So do you want to introduce your bonus?
Yeah, I can happily say it now. So we really want people, because we feel like our products are extremely powerful. We're getting really great results from people, and we want people to just try it. So what we're doing is we're doing a 50% off for 420 that I'm actually going to extend through the weekend as well. So
Wow.
yeah, you have all weekend, but I have the code that you would use at checkout is 420 magic. So 420 MAGIC, and that should take 50% off of your purchase or whatever you're looking for. And so, yeah, we're confident to know we want to make it affordable, right? We want people to be able to see it, because I know with CBD and it can be pricey, right? And
And you
that's
can
a big
ship to
investment for
California,
people.
right?
Do what? Yeah,
You
we
can
can ship
ship. Yep.
all 50 states. Yep.
Perfect. There you go.
Yep.
And what's your website?
The website is www.alchempist, ALCHEMPIST.com. So www.thealchempist.com. But yeah, check it out. I know I have the sell up. I just always try to get products in people's hands. And, I know that with that investment, it could be big, but it's once they can see the results, it makes a lot of sense for what you might be either spending money on or trying to do for your health, I feel like. So we wanted to make it affordable and make it easy for people to try. So we wanted to do a big discount on the show, and
Yes.
yeah, appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited for anyone that's interested in learning more. Please check out Alchemist, and on the YouTube video, there will be a link below for you to easily link to your site. And of course, if you want to reach out to Energy Haus or this show, you can also do that. We'll give you the information.
Absolutely.
So,
One more thing too,
yes,
Sarah, if you don't mind me adding,
course.
is I know dosaging is a
Yes.
wide range right now. And so, I feel like it really matters when you're doing dosaging. It's a type, if you try a product and it doesn't give you results, or it makes massive results. So I'm big on dosage, and what we're doing, you can reach out in our chat or email us or whatever, and we have free dosage consultations as well. So we want to help walk people through to kind of try to figure out that best thing for them, because I feel like it's super important.
Yeah, that is so important. And I love that your company offers that, because I think it is specialized. And, if you do have questions, this is a great place to start. And Matt is obviously a plethora of information. So, Matt, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was
Absolutely
such an honor to have you on 420 to really give cannabis and hemp a new light, a new beginning as well during these ever-changing times. So with that, thank you all for tuning in. It's been such an honor to be here with you all today. And don't forget, these are ever-changing times. Find your balance, find your rhythm. You got this. And with that, we'll see you next week. Have a beautiful week.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Master Your Energy here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And also streamed live on YouTube on the Energy Haus YouTube channel, where you can also find live activations, meditations, and other content to support you on your energy healing needs. If you're looking for services, products, tools to go even deeper, please make sure to check out energyhauslb.com. That's EnergyHausLB.com. On that site, you'll see a list of services, products, and so much more for all things energy, mind, body, and soul. With that, have a powerful week, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. on KCAA Radio and YouTube Live.